I named it Wɔn Fa Shoe Mbaaha. The title is part of a phrase that I heard from an old Ghanaian film that I'm sure anybody around my age will actually remember. The complete thing is Ahaya Busumfi Wɔn Fa Shoe Mbaaha, which literally translates to this is a shrine or this is sacred ground. There are no shoes allowed here. And it's something that kept in its placing in this movie. It was actually quite funny, and it's something that we would continually, play around with as kids. At this shrine, it's something that kept coming back to me, although not humorously, about how that was sacred ground. And so how shoes were not allowed there because they weren't. I mean, to walk into the inner shrine, nobody was wearing shoes. And so I thought it fit as a title for the photo series. I'd met in the art community, if you like, in Accra, in the circles that I was hanging in, a guy called Nana B, who was, I think at the time, a trainee priest or something at this shrine. And we got talking. I found that he specifically had a wealth of wisdom in all things traditional. We got talking. He mentioned his relationship with the shrine and said he could get me access to do a photo story. The photos that I have shared in this particular story, they were having a grand durbar. And the kind of things that went on, they would pay homage to the gods and deities of that shrine. The head of which is Yaw Atia. The shrine is named after Yaw Atia, who's a dwarf, who ironically, legend has it, is a Christian. And so you cannot go and have visitations with this particular deity on a Sunday, because legend has it that he's a Catholic. The very first time that I walked into the shrine, I think my initial reaction was, well, disbelief is a little too strong. I was actually taken aback by how welcoming they were, maybe because I had, an insider to kind of introduce me. But I was taken aback by my first steps into the shrine were greeted by a bear hug by a woman that I'd never met, and then, they sat down and they did the traditional welcome of, water, and in the shrine also there's a shot of schnapps or local rum that is passed around that you sip and then pour some libation, to the ancestors. And that it's really not different, apart from the actual practices from, in its core, in its meaning, from some of the practices which we, practice in Christianity, for instance. The idea of sacrifice, of communion, of ritual and worship. It's just, in my opinion, a case of just different rituals, really. Well, what equipment did I shoot? I shot on any one of two bodies that I was packing at the time. One was a Canon 5D Mark II, and the other was a 50D, a Canon 50D, digital, both of them. My favorite memories is actually one of them, a guy who becomes Tiggery, who is the most feared deity at the shrine, actually not at a period when he wasn't possessed, coming over and telling me that he liked me, and that the next time I was coming from Accra, he wanted big stunner sunglasses and a big buckled belt. Those are kind of the conversations that we would have on the downtime. I don't feel like I have answered all the questions. I have no illusions that in one photo story I have answered all those questions. But for me, it's a running narrative. It's something that I hope to shoot some more of, especially because in scratching the surface, I realize that there is so much more, and I want to see how that translates to different shrines. This series was shot in the Yaw Atia Shrine in Mampong, Ekwapim. I'm curious to see, for instance, what Ga traditional worship is, what Fanti traditional worship is, and what similarities and differences there are.